Hey guys, welcome back to the show and happy full moon. We've made it halfway through the Virgo new moon cycle and maybe you're starting to see some things we've been putting in the work because the first half of the moon cycle is the work, and then when we hit the full moon we get to rest a little bit, step back, relax, and take a look at what all is working and what's not so that we can spend the second half releasing and letting go of, right? So since today's episode fell on a Tuesday and a full moon, I thought we'd take the time to talk about self-care and really try to get a broad overview of exactly what all that entails. Because self-care is just a broad general umbrella term that's kind of thrown around everywhere, kind of be a buzzword right now. Not just right now, it has been for a little while. And when we think of self-care, a lot of us think of like bubble baths and skincare, hydrating properly. But are you familiar with toxic positivity? Where you're avoiding your problems and pushing them down and just being positive all the time. No negative emotions allowed. We're not processing anything. We're just shoving it down and bottling it up to stay positive all the time. So that's toxic positivity. There is a toxic self-care also that kind of follows into that same category. So since it's the full moon and we should be practicing our self-care and focusing on self-care and analyzing what's going on around us and just taking a step back and slowing down, I wanted to touch on this to make sure that you're doing it in the right way and you're not just shoving your problems to the side in the name of painting your nails or getting a massage and thinking that doing these self-care things are going to magically make all of your problems go away, because they're not. So, to clarify, self-care is not, it is taking a bubble bath or getting a manicure, a pedicure, a massage, eating right, drinking enough water, all of that. But self-care is also introspection, tending to your belief systems and your mindset, asking, questioning yourself and your own thoughts and your own words and what you're doing and what you're choosing so that you can weed out any, because, it's the full moon, everything's coming to light. So right now is the perfect time to analyze what you've been thinking, what you've been saying, how you've been acting, what you've been choosing, and are those good and positive and in the direction of your goals, values, and priorities? Are you self-sabotaging yourself and your goals somewhere? Because, probably. Most of us do. Most of us do, whether we've realized it or not, self-sabotage our own progress and goals because we're afraid of actually getting what we want, which is crazy for us to think about, right? How can we be terrified to actually achieve our goals? But most of us are. It's very rare that you're not. So yes, absolutely take the bubble bath, get the pedicure, all of that stuff. But while you're in those positions of relaxation, sit there and think about what you've been doing, what you've been thinking, what you've been saying, how you've been acting, the things that you've been choosing. Are those in alignment with what you actually want? Because this second half of the moon cycle is when you want to prune that which is not working, that which is not in alignment. So we're cleaning, we're clearing, we're letting go, we're surrendering, all good self-care practices. Are we tending to our relationships properly? Our relationships with not only others, both romantic and platonic. Okay, let's not sleep on platonic and family relationships, please. Romantic relationships are only a fragment of the types of relationships that we can have with people. And you can absolutely find more fulfillment in all of these other relationships as well. But anyway, relationships also with yourself and food, with yourself and your body. Think about your relationship with your body for a second. Is it a good, happy, healthy, positive one? Or do you talk crap about yourself to yourself all the time? Your body and your mind are separate, but the same, okay? They're kind of like two entities, even though they're not. Your body's going to believe anything you tell it to be true. So if you're constantly telling it things like, oh, you're fat, you're weak, why aren't you better? Then it's going to perpetuate those beliefs because it loves you and it wants you to be correct. It wants to feed your ego. So if you say that you are these things, then you are going to perpetuate these things and extend these things and become more of these things. If you tell yourself you're strong, you're going to become stronger. If you tell yourself that you're fit and healthy and doing great, you'll start to move in that direction. If you tell yourself you're not, then you're going to stagnate or become worse in the state that which you are. That's why it's so important to focus on what we want and what we like and completely ignore the rest. You don't want to feed the energy and the momentum of what we don't want at all, which means paying zero attention, zero energy, right? We're paying attention, right? It costs. So every time you tell yourself you're dumb or whatever else that we're telling ourselves that's not helpful, we're basically paying what limited energy we have to reinforce those beliefs and those realities. So good and proper self-care is identifying these and noticing these patterns that you have and flipping them, or at least being aware of them so that you can stop them in the tracks. And when you notice yourself doing them, flip them into something that you do like, you do want. So if you catch yourself being like, oh, I'm so dumb, be like, whoa, hold on. I'm super sorry, body. I'm super sorry, brain. I'm super sorry, myself. I love you. You're not dumb. You are doing your best. Maybe we didn't know a thing and now we do. So next time we'll be even better about it. This is what we call growth. You're doing a great job. Be gentle with yourself and cut yourself some slack. You are only human. And there's this thing in our brains that makes us want to downplay ourselves, especially when we get around other people. It's a societal and cultural phenomenon crap thing where we don't want to seem egotistical or stuck up or anything like that. We want to seem humble and kind and compassionate. And for some reason, we feel like we have to constantly be putting ourselves down in order to meet those standards. So we're not beating ourselves up about all of this. We're just recognizing it and doing our best to work towards a better solution, a better pattern that we can move forward with. Be finding things that you like about yourself all the time. And the things that you don't like about yourself, work to change. There's very few things about ourselves that we can't change. And the things that we can't change, maybe figure out how to learn to accept them. A lot of that's going to be shadow work, okay? Because to fully love yourself, you have to love the good and the bad, the light and the dark, because we all have this duality within us. And a lot of us suppress and attack the dark aspects of who we are because society and culture says those things are bad. But they're not, quote unquote, bad, because good and bad are human constructs. They are only existing like the trees exist. And we need that duality to be able to have any kind of reality. So we're taught that we need to suppress this and control this and bury it away and lock it up and never let it out. And yes, it is absolutely your responsibility to discern what is okay to be let out and what is not. That's, just being a decent person. Which we could go into how intrusive thoughts aren't necessarily you, okay? Our brain and our higher self are two separate things, and we can think with our higher selves and we can think with our brain, right? And see, our higher self is the conscious observer of our thoughts and what's going on, whereas our brain's primary function is to keep us alive. And it's tied to our body, which is very primal and has, urges and stuff. But it's important that you don't identify with the brain and body, okay? You are the conscious observer and you are in control if you choose to be. How often you're just sitting there going about your business and all of a sudden you have these intrusive thoughts and you're like, where did that even come from? I don't like that. What is that? So it's important to differentiate between what is you and what is not. And if you really wanted to get woo-woo crazy with it. You could be like, oh, it might not even be your thoughts at all. It may be thoughts that you're picking up around you, other people or things or whatever. So good self-care is being aware of what's you, what's not you, formulating and controlling your bodysuit that you're operating in this world, and loving the aspects, the darker aspects that maybe are you. And that's okay, because the things I'm talking about is some of these things that like are taboo, but they necessarily shouldn't be, or they were in 200 years ago, but society's changed. And I mean, just sit and think for a second about all of the ridiculous things that people have prosecuted each other for centuries. We're combating a lot of trauma here, okay? Ancestral trauma through and through, pretty much from the beginning of time. Let's be gentle with ourselves. We're doing our best, and we've only just now really started healing. So the workload is a lot. It's big. It is. I get it. And self-care is at the forefront of this work, of this job, because we can't change the world without changing ourselves first. We can't help other people. We can't be there for other people and create these communities and villages that we all so desire to have. We can't be emotionally available for each other until we are in a place where we can and we have that energy. And that is where taking care of ourselves comes first and foremost. Because if we don't take care of ourselves and we don't have the energy, and someone tries to confide in us and we're just not in a place to be able to receive it today, we may end up dismissive or lash out, and the result of that is the opposite of the bond building, the strengthening of the relationship that creates all of this healing that we're aiming for, okay? Instead, it fractures it and makes it worse. It's in the opposite direction of which we want to go. So it's our responsibility to make sure that our own needs are met first and our energy reserves are up and available, so that we can show up in the world as our best selves and lead by example and be there for one another. We covered this a couple of episodes ago with the creating boundaries. There was 2 episodes back to back, creating boundaries with others and creating boundaries with ourselves, so that we can meet these goals that we have of healing and building relationships and finding fulfillment and purpose and peace, and allowing that to ripple out from us and create more of a positive world for us all. So no matter what your goal is, and I don't even care if you're like, Sven, I'm not really interested in peace, I'm here to manifest abundance. Well, this is how you get that too, okay? It doesn't matter what your goal is. The number one thing you should be focusing on is your energy, okay? How your energy emanates from you, right? We want to become more energy than matter, because it's easier to interact in the energetic world than it is to interact in the physical world. The physical world's a little too dense, honestly, and it takes too much work, too long to navigate. So we want to work within the realms of the energy field, the all-connectedness, bring in that flow so that we can manifest things, attract things to us, right? We're trying to enact the 12 laws of the universe and get what we want through that, instead of like running ourselves into the ground, because that's counterproductive. That's not actually how things work. We're gonna have to work a whole lot harder with all that. We don't want anything to do with that, right? We lazy as in prioritizing rest and restoration, not lazy as in the negative connotation that has been assigned to it. So if energy is our number one goal, tool to use, to focus on, then stress levels are, that's what that translates into. There's nothing more important than working on our energy, which means there's nothing more important than managing our stress levels and trying to stay in that ease and flow state rather than the tension, erratic, chaos, restrictive, overwhelm stuff, right? We get that which we project out, what we give momentum to, what we give our energy to, our focus to, grows. So if we're always stressed, then it's going to just perpetuate more stress, and that's just going to cause all sorts of repercussions all over the place that we don't want. And then if we're in the flow state, that's what we create more of, is the flow state. We want to give momentum to that. We want to give our energy to that. So how do we do that? Self-care, stress management, demanding that we have time to do so, insisting that we make time. If we have to schedule it in, if we have to set boundaries and be like, no, sorry, I already have plans this night at this time with myself. We all think that we're too busy for self-care, but we really cannot afford to not make time for it. It has to be non-negotiable, mandatory priority in your life. And that's what the full moon calls for, right? See, even the universe understands that sometimes we need to be in our hustle stage, but we need to understand that true balance comes from both. It comes from the ebb and the flow, the hustle and the relaxation, restoration required to then cycle back around to the hustle. So we set our intentions with the new moon, we hustle for 2 weeks, we hit the full moon, we allow that full moon to be our recalibration of energy. So we've been going. Now we've peaked out, and now it's time to we're on the top of the mountain. We've been climbing the mountain. Now we're on the top. Now we can sit here and relax a little bit, contemplate, look at the stars, look at the clouds, look at the mountains in the distance, and the little squirrels playing over here next to you, just bask in the work that you've done and where you've made it to at this point. Recalibrate, clear your mind, put your hammock up and meditate, maybe do a little journaling, little configuration, little analyzation. We're just camping up on top of the mountain for a few days. And then we're going to slowly start trekking our way down, right? And back to the full moon at the base of the bottom to start all over again. And, the next 2 weeks, so the first 2 weeks are the hustle, now we're resting and all of that, and now we're going to be clearing and cleaning. Or how's this to continue the analogy? We spent 2 weeks climbing the mountain, yada yada, all of that. We're coming back down the mountain, but it takes a lot less energy and time to come down the mountain. So for the first week, we're just strolling down the mountain and looking at the plants as we go by and stopping to awe at the deer. And now we've made it at the bottom of the mountain and we're at home, and now we have to take all of our gear out and clean it and tend to it and repack it up so you're not putting things up dirty and wet, because then it's going to mold, right? And we want to be able to continue using our gear. So the same analogy applies to whatever goals you have going on right now, whatever intentions that you set with the full moon or the new moon in the beginning of the month. We worked on it, and now we're cleaning up and reorganizing and clearing our desk because we've made a mess in our work. And then when the next new moon comes along, we're going to make another plan and start the process all over again. Okay, but what I need for you to do today is just relax. Just relax a little bit. Go take you a bath, or, grab your journal and sit with it. I did that this morning for the first time in a while. I'm guilty of all of the things that I say that we're guilty of. I'm human too, just like the rest of us. It's been a long time since I've sat down and really just poured my heart and soul out into a journal. And I woke up this morning and I was just off. My energy was off, and I couldn't find how to fix it. It actually started last night. The things that I'm ready for a shift. I'm trying to shift, and I'm not really sure which direction to go in. I know that there's something new on my horizon, or maybe it's not new. Maybe it's an old thing that needs to resurface. I don't know. I'm being directed towards something. And so the stagnation in my energy field and the pressure has been intense, and I'm just trying so hard to figure out how to release it because none of the regular ways are working, right? But anyway, I got my journal out this morning because everybody in my life is busy. So I'm an auditory processor, and to process things and clean and clear all of everything going on within me, I need to get it out. And so I got my journal out because when everybody around you is busy and unavailable, you can always rely on your journal. You can always rely on talking to yourself about yourself and problem solving and laying it out and organizing your thoughts and finding a solution, brainstorming that. And man, I journaled for only probably about 20-30 minutes, and it felt so cleansing and so clearing that my energy was just wonderful on the other side of it after I spent a solid 24 hours in this really weird state, like through the night. Like, it started yesterday about midday, and then I woke up with it this morning still, and I was like, ugh. But I got that out, and everything's just lovely now. So I highly recommend journaling, giving it a try at least. Remember, a lot of people don't want to journal because they're like, I'm not a good writer, or, I'm not a good speller, or whatever. It literally doesn't matter. You could write in your own made-up cuneiform. It's between you and you, okay? You can burn it afterwards if you want to. If you don't want to journal because you don't have good spelling or grammar or whatever, I think really all you're doing is hiding from yourself and avoiding facing yourself and doing the work and whatnot, which is normal. It's totally normal. It's what everybody does. We all hide from the truth, and we all hide from our problems, and nothing's ever going to get any better until we face what we're dealing with and do our best to fix it. You have to want to fix it. You have to get it fixed. You can't just sweep things under the rug. You have to do the work. Which I know you want to fix it, because if you didn't, you wouldn't be here listening to this and whatnot. But we can listen to all of the podcasts in the world. We can read all of the books. But until we actually sit down with ourselves and do the work through journaling, through meditation, through art, there's 1,000 different ways that you can do the work, okay? So you have to figure out what works for you, and you have to actually sit down and do it. If you found a method that works for you that I didn't list, let me know. Let us know. Drop it in the Facebook group so that we can all figure it out together. Because that's what those groups are for, right? Is brainstorm. Be like, hey, I have a problem with this, and I don't really know. Because anybody have any suggestions? Tell me what works for you in this situation, and then I can look about all the options and see if I can formulate anything that's going to work for me in between all of them. Maybe drop in there and tell us what kind of self-care and analyzation, look at ourselves, we did on top of our mountain under the full moon tonight. Right? Yeah, that sounds like fun. So anyway, happy manifesting. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for hanging out with me. I enjoyed it. Don't forget to grab you an affirmation sticker from the shop. I love you so much. I'll talk to you next week. Namaste.